The wind swept through the small village of Nyika, carrying the sound of whispers. Bayo, a young teacher from the city, tightened his scarf as he stepped off the dusty bus. The villagers had been waiting for a new teacher for months. He was eager to make a difference. As Bayo walked through the village, children peeked out from behind mud huts, giggling at the stranger. A girl named Amoni, about 10 years old, bravely approached him. "Are you the teacher?" she asked, her big brown eyes curious. Bayo smiled. "Yes, I am." "What's your name?" "Amoni," she said, grinning. "Mama says the school is over there." She pointed to a small building at the edge of the village. Bayo thanked her and headed to the school. The building looked old, with cracks in the walls and a rusty tin roof. Inside, he found a blackboard covered in faded chalk marks. He brushed it clean, ready to start fresh. The next morning, the classroom was full. Boys and girls sat on wooden benches, their faces eager. Bayo introduced himself and began teaching. He quickly noticed something odd. Whenever the wind blew, the girls would glance at each other and giggle nervously. During lunch, Bayo sat under a tree, eating a piece of bread. Amoni approached him again. "Teacher, do you hear the whispers?" Bayo frowned. "Whispers? What whispers?" "The wind," Amoni said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "It talks to us sometimes." Bayo laughed, thinking it was a joke. But Amoni didn't laugh. "You'll see," she said, then ran off to play. That night, Bayo couldn't sleep. The wind howled outside his small hut, and for a moment, it sounded like voices. He shook his head. "It's just the wind," he told himself. But deep down, he wasn't so sure. The next day, Bayo asked the headman, Baba Jumo, about the whispers. Baba Jumo chuckled. "Oh, the wind of Nyika. It's just a story the children like to tell. Don't let it bother you." But Bayo couldn't shake the feeling that something was strange. During class, he noticed that whenever the wind blew, the girls became restless. They would look at the windows, their faces filled with a mix of fear and excitement. One afternoon, as the wind picked up, Bayo decided to follow it. He watched as the girls ran to the edge of the village and stopped at a large baobab tree. They circled the tree, holding hands and singing a soft, eerie song. Bayo approached them. "What are you doing here?" The girls stopped singing and looked at him, their eyes wide. Amoni spoke up. "The tree listens to the wind, teacher. It tells us stories." "What kind of stories?" Bayo asked. Amoni hesitated. "Stories about the past. And the future." Before Bayo could ask more, Baba Jumo appeared, his face stern. "Go home, children," he said. The girls scattered, and Baba Jumo turned to Bayo. "You should leave this alone, teacher. The tree is not for you." Bayo couldn't stop thinking about the baobab tree. That night, as the wind howled, he dreamed of voices calling his name. In the dream, he stood under the tree, surrounded by the girls. They were singing the same eerie song. When he woke up, the whispers from his dream lingered in his mind. He decided to investigate the tree. Early the next morning, before anyone else was awake, he went to the baobab. The wind was still, and the air felt heavy. As he approached the tree, he noticed something strange, carvings on the trunk. They looked like symbols, but he couldn't understand them. He touched the tree, and suddenly, a gust of wind blew through the village, carrying a voice that said, "Why have you come?" Bayo stumbled back, his heart pounding. He ran to Baba Jumo's house and told him what happened. Baba Jumo sighed. "The tree is sacred. It holds the spirits of our ancestors. They speak to those who listen." "Why do the girls go there?" Bayo asked. Baba Jumo's face grew dark. "The girls are chosen. The tree gives them knowledge, but it comes at a price. You must stay away, teacher. Despite the warning, Bayo couldn't let it go. He started asking the villagers about the tree, but most refused to talk. Only an old woman named Mama Nuru shared what she knew. The tree has always been there, she said. It protects the village but demands respect. Many years ago, a man tried to cut it down. He disappeared, and no one ever saw him again. Bayo shivered. What does it want? Mama Nuru shrugged. Only the chosen ones know. That evening, as the wind picked up, Bayo heard the girls singing again. This time, their voices sounded different, more urgent. He followed the sound to the tree and saw the girls standing in a circle, their hands raised to the sky. Suddenly, the wind swirled around them, and a voice echoed, "The time has come." The girls fell silent and turned to Bayo. "Teacher," Amani said, her voice trembling, "you must help us." Bayo stood frozen as Amani's words hung in the air. The wind whispered again, carrying an eerie chant he couldn't understand. He took a step closer, his voice shaking. "Help you? What do you mean?" Amani's eyes filled with tears. "The tree says something bad is coming. It needs you to stop it." Bayo's stomach twisted. "Me? I'm just a teacher. How can I help?" "The tree chose you," Amani whispered. The other girls nodded, their faces solemn. Before Bayo could ask more, Baba Juma appeared again, his staff striking the ground. "Enough," he bellowed. "This is not your place, teacher." Bayo turned to face the headmen, frustration boiling over. "They are children. If they are in danger, don't I have a right to help?" Baba Juma's eyes narrowed. "You don't understand what you're meddling in. Leave this alone, or the village will suffer." The next morning, the village was buzzing with whispers. People avoided Bayo, their eyes filled with mistrust. Even the children in his class seemed distant. Only Amani stayed close, her presence a silent plea for his help. During the afternoon lesson, the wind blew fiercely, rattling the windows. Amani suddenly cried out and collapsed. The other children screamed, and Bayo rushed to her side. Her eyes fluttered open, but her voice was weak. "The tree," she murmured. "It's angry." Bayo carried her to Mama Nuru's hut. The old woman laid Amani on a mat and began chanting softly. She looked at Bayo, her face grim. "The tree spirit is restless. It's trying to protect us, but something blocks its power." "What can I do?" Bayo asked. Mama Nuru hesitated. "There's an old story, a way to calm the tree. But it's dangerous." That night, Mama Nuru shared the story by firelight. Long ago, the tree spirit was a woman named Nyika. She sacrificed herself to save the village from raiders. Her soul became one with the tree, and she has guided us ever since. But the balance can be broken. "What breaks the balance?" Bayo asked. Mama Nuru lowered her voice. "If the villagers forget to honor her. Or if someone angers her spirit." Bayo thought of the strange carvings on the tree. "What do the symbols mean?" Mama Nuru sighed. "They are warnings. Someone has tampered with them. If Naya's spirit is angered, it could bring disaster." "Who would do that?" Bayo asked. Mama Nuru shook her head. "I don't know. But you must find out. If the balance isn't restored, the village will suffer." The next day, Bayo gathered his courage and returned to the tree. This time, he brought chalk and paper, determined to copy the carvings. As he traced the symbols, the wind picked up, and he heard faint laughter. It wasn't the girls, it was deeper, colder. "Who's there?" he called out. The wind answered with silence. Suddenly, he felt a hand on his shoulder. He spun around to see Amani, her face pale. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "The tree is watching. I need to understand," Bayo said. Do you know who did this? Amoni hesitated, then nodded. It was Shani. Bayo's chest tightened. Shani was one of the older girls, quiet and studious. Why would she do that? She said the tree didn't deserve our respect anymore, Amoni whispered. She wanted to prove it wasn't real. Bayo found Shani at the edge of the village, sitting alone under a smaller tree. She looked up as he approached, her face defiant. You're going to tell me to stop, aren't you? Why did you carve into the tree? Bayo asked gently. Shani crossed her arms. Why should we honor something that controls us? The tree doesn't protect us, it scares us. The tree isn't trying to hurt you, Bayo said. But tampering with it could put everyone in danger. Shani's eyes filled with tears. My sister disappeared last year. She used to visit the tree every day, but one night, she never came home. The villagers said it was Naya's will, but I don't believe that. Bayo's heart ached. I'm sorry about your sister. But carving the tree won't bring her back. We need to work together to find answers. Shani reluctantly agreed to help Bayo. They returned to Mama Nuru, who studied the carvings carefully. These marks are not just scratches, she said. They are a call to another spirit, one that should never have been summoned. What kind of spirit? Bayo asked. A jealous one, Mama Nuru said. Naya's rival from long ago. If this spirit gains power, it could destroy the village. Bayo's chest tightened. How do we stop it? Mama Nuru looked at him, her eyes heavy with sorrow. The tree must be healed. But to do that, someone must face the spirit directly. The room fell silent as Mama Nuru's words sank in. Amoni clung to Bayo's arm, her small hands trembling. You can't face it alone, teacher, she whispered. Bayo knelt to her level, forcing a brave smile. I'll be okay, Amoni. Sometimes, we have to do hard things to protect the people we care about. Mama Nuru handed Bayo a small bundle wrapped in cloth. Inside are herbs and charms for protection. The spirit is strong, but these may weaken it long enough for you to heal the tree. Bayo unwrapped the bundle and found dried leaves, a small carved stone, and a vial of dark liquid. He nodded. What do I have to do? You must return to the tree at midnight, Mama Nuru said. Burn the herbs, speak these words. She handed him a slip of paper, and poured the liquid on the carvings. But be warned, the spirit will fight back. You must stay focused, no matter what. That night, the village was unnaturally quiet. Even the crickets seemed to hold their breath. Bayo waited outside his hut, the bundle clutched tightly in his hands. Shani appeared, her face pale but determined. I'm coming with you, she said. Bayo shook his head. It's too dangerous. I helped cause this, Shani said firmly. I need to help fix it. Reluctantly, Bayo agreed, and the two made their way to the baobab tree. The air grew colder with every step, and the wind whispered louder, forming half-words that made the hair on the back of Bayo's neck stand up. When they reached the tree, the ground beneath it seemed to pulse, as if alive. The carvings glowed faintly in the moonlight, and the wind circled them like an invisible predator. Bayo set the bundle down and lit the herbs. Smoke curled upward, carrying a sharp, earthy scent. He began to chant the words Mama Nuru had given him, his voice shaking. The wind howled, and a shadow emerged from the tree. It was tall and shapeless, with glowing red eyes that seemed to pierce through Bayo. You dare challenge me, it hissed, its voice like grinding stone. Shani screamed, but Bayo grabbed her hand. Stay behind me, he shouted. The shadow lunged, but the smoke from the herb slowed it down. Bayo poured the liquid over the carvings, and the tree groaned, its branches shaking violently. The spirit roared, its form growing more solid. You cannot banish me. This village is mine. Bayo's heart pounded. He clutched the carved stone and held it up. "You don't belong here," he shouted. "Go back to where you came from." The spirit shrieked, its form flickering. The ground beneath the tree cracked open, and a blinding light erupted from the trunk. Bayo felt a force pulling him backward, but he held his ground, chanting Mama Nuru's words over and over. Suddenly, the wind stopped. The spirit let out one last, ear-piercing scream before vanishing into the light. The carvings on the tree faded, and the ground stilled. Shani collapsed to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "Is it over?" she whispered. Bayo nodded, his legs shaking. "I think so." As they turned to leave, a soft voice spoke from the tree. "Thank you." Bayo looked back and saw a faint outline of a woman's face in the back. It was Naya. She smiled at him before fading away. The next morning, the village awoke to a calm they hadn't felt in years. The wind was gentle, carrying only the sounds of birds and laughter. Amani ran to Bayo, her face glowing with relief. "You did it, teacher. The tree is happy again." Baba Juma approached, his expression solemn. "You've done what none of us could. The village owes you its life." Bayo smiled, exhaustion evident in his eyes. "I didn't do it alone." Shani stepped forward, her head held high. "We all have a part to play," she said. Mama Nuru nodded. "And now the village will remember. We must honor Naya, not out of fear, but gratitude." In the days that followed, the village gathered around the tree to give thanks. The children's songs returned, this time filled with joy. Bayo watched them from a distance, his heart lighter than it had been in weeks. As he prepared for his next lesson, he glanced at the tree and smiled. It stood tall and proud, its branches swaying gently in the breeze, a reminder of the power of courage, unity, and respect for the spirits that watch over us. The whispers of the wind had turned to laughter, and for the first time in a long time, Nyika felt truly at peace. Life in the village slowly returned to normal, but it wasn't the same normal as before. The air felt clearer, the laughter of children more vibrant, and even the sun seemed to shine a little brighter. The baobab tree, once shrouded in unease, now stood as a symbol of hope and resilience. Bayo resumed his teaching with renewed energy. The children, especially Amoni and Shani, were eager to learn. They asked more questions, their curiosity blooming like the wildflowers that now sprouted around the base of the great tree. Even Baba Juma, once skeptical of Bayo's presence, softened. He began visiting the school, occasionally sharing stories of the village's past with the children. One day, Bayo found himself standing before the baobab tree once more. He wasn't afraid this time. Instead, he felt a deep connection to it, as though the tree had become a friend, a guardian, and a teacher in its own right. Mama Nuru approached him, her wise eyes twinkling. "You've brought more than peace to the village, teacher. You've brought understanding." Bayo smiled. "It wasn't just me. The tree reminded us all of something we'd forgotten, that we're stronger together." Mama Nuru nodded. "And we'll honor Naya's spirit from now on, not out of fear, but out of love and respect." As the seasons changed, the village grew closer. They held a festival in Naya's honor, decorating the baobab with colorful cloth and singing songs of gratitude. Bayo watched with pride as the villagers, young and old, danced and laughed under the tree's sprawling branches. Shani, standing beside him, spoke quietly. "I miss my sister, but I think she's at peace now. The tree feels safe again." Bayo placed a hand on her shoulder. "She'd be proud of you, Shani. You stood up for what you believed in, and you helped make things right." She smiled, a hint of her old confidence returning. "I'll keep learning, teacher. Maybe one day, I'll understand the tree's secrets, just like you." As night fell, the festival lights illuminated the village in a warm glow. The wind carried the sound of laughter and music, weaving it into the stars above. Bayo looked up at the sky and felt a profound sense of gratitude. He had come to this village to teach, but it had taught him just as much. For the first time in a long while, Bayo felt he had truly found his place. Amoni ran up to him, tugging his sleeve. "Teacher, come dance with us." Laughing, Bayo joined the children in their circle, their joy contagious. The villagers cheered, their voices harmonizing with the rustling of the baobab's leaves. It was as though Nyika herself was celebrating with them, her spirit finally at rest. The days turned to weeks, and the story of the baobab tree and its guardian spirit became a cherished tale passed down in the village. The children learned not just about letters and numbers, but about courage, unity, and respect for the unseen forces that guide their world. And as for Bayo, he stayed in the village, his heart deeply tied to its people and their stories. He knew there would be challenges ahead, there always were, but he also knew the village would face them together. Under the watchful gaze of the baobab tree, Nyika thrived, its people united by the lessons of the past and the hope for the future. And though the wind no longer whispered warnings, it carried something even more powerful, the promise of peace and a better tomorrow.